distance over time. You only podcast, but it feels like home. Tune in, lean in, press play, and I don't feel so alone. 100,000 listens, still it feels one-on-one. Talking healing, talking heartbreak, how the work's never done. We're just breathing through the changes, finding new ways to grow. I send the link to a friend. Hey, you need this episode. You only.
Welcome back to the You Only podcast. Today, we're going to be speaking about music therapy. If you are listening right now, take a moment, notice the sounds around you. Notice your breathing. Notice the rhythm of your body, because before there were words, before there were symbols, laws, religions, or nations, there was sound. Today, we are talking about music, not as entertainment, but as biology, history, psychology, and survival. We are talking about what sound does to the human brain, the human nervous system, and how human capacity can heal. This is not metaphor, this is measurable. Over 2,000 years ago, Aristotle wrote in Politics Book 8 that music shapes character. He believed rhythm and melody imitate emotional states, and that repeated exposure trains the soul to mirror those states. Plato and the Republic warned that when the music of society changes, the society itself changes, because harmony and rhythm sink deeply into the soul. Socrates believed disciplined exposure to music could cultivate virtue and self-control. They did not have brain imaging, but they were not guessing. Modern neuroscience now confirms what they observed. Historical MRI studies from Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, and McGill University show that music activities the auditory cortex, the limbic system, the prefrontal cortex, and the motor cortex simultaneously. Very few activities engage this many brain regions at once. Research published in Nature Neuroscience and Frontiers in Psychology show music links emotion, memory, prediction, and reward into a single experience. Music does not just stimulate the brain, it integrates it. When people listen to music they find meaningful, dopamine is released. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter involved in motivation, learning, and recovery from trauma. A landmark McGill University study showed dopamine is released not only during emotional peaks in music, but anticipation of them. Music teaches the brain to expect resolutions. Hope is not abstract, hope is neurological. This matters deeply for trauma. NIH and Harvard affiliated studies show trauma disrupts the brain's ability to predict safety. Music helps reestablish temporal trust, the sense that something good can come next. And so when I'm in my car and I'm driving, I listen to loud music. It soothes my soul because it gives me freedom to be alone and to be in the moment and to have memories that I want to have at that time. And that's how I live my life, and it heals me. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change its structure based on repeated experience. Music therapy has been shown in peer-reviewed research to improve speech recovery after a stroke, reduce PTSD symptoms, I know because it works for me and it has for 10 years or more, lower cortisol levels, and improve emotional regulation in survivors of child abuse. You Only fan members Rhythm plays a central role in everything in your everyday life. The brain naturally entrances to rhythm. Neural firing patterns synchronize with external beats. This is why infants calm when rocked. My grandma used to rock me and she'd say, "Somebody's tired." Why chanting unifies groups. Why marching regulates movement. The brain follows rhythm towards regulation, everybody. Sound is vibration. This is physics. You only. Research shows predictable, lower intensity sound calms the autonomic nervous system, while chaotic high intensity noise increases stress markers. I listen to loud music in my car, but it's really loud, peaceful music, and I feel calm when listening to it. So while specific tuning claims like exact healing frequency are not conclusively proven, the influence of intensity, predictability, and harmonic structure on stress and emotional regulation is well documented, everybody. Everywhere I looked and researched, I seen it. Music did not begin as entertainment, it began as survival. So that's why I said earlier, rhythm is everything around you in every moment. Anthropological and evolutionary neuroscience research suggests humans used rhythm before structured language. Clapping, drumming, chanting. These sounds coordinate movement, bonded groups, regulated fear, and signaled safety. And that's why churches are so big with music. Studies in behavioral and brain sciences describe this as neural entertainment. When people move and vocalize together, heart rate and emotional states synchronize. Where three or more are gathered, I am in the midst. Trauma disrupts this organization. Modern trauma research shows trauma is often restored nonverbally in the amygdala, brainstem, vagus nerve, and body. This is why talk therapy alone sometimes falls short. Language reaches the thinking brain. Music reaches regulatory brain. And I always say nobody's ever going to believe you as much as you believe yourself because you say it the most. It comes out of your computer and back into your computer through your ears, and you download it again and you believe those things. And that's why a lot of people, you know, get lost in life. Throughout history, stressed and oppressed communities used music to survive. Gospel music in enslaved Africa communities was not entertainment, it was emotional oxygen. Fuel howlers, spirituals, and call and response harm hymns regulated fear, reinforced identity, and encoded hope and safety. Structured mattered. Call and response maintained alertness. Harmony reinforced cohesion. Repetition stabilized emotion. Music became portable nervous system. As gospel evolved into blues, pain was allowed to be named plainly. Blues slowed tempo, lowered pitch, and extended phasing. Neuroscience shows slower tempos reduce systematic nervous system activation. Blues did not glorify suffering, it contained it. Containment is the first step towards healing. As blues blended into folk and country, story entered the sound. Narrative psychology shows structured storytelling helps the brain organize memory and reduce intrusive thoughts. Music combined with story becomes meaning making. Meaning reduces chaos. Rock music brought amplification, crowds, and shared release. Group singing research shows increased oxytocin and reduced anxiety. Rock did not simply rebel, it reconnected isolated nervous systems in a rapidly changing world. In the 1960s, musicians like the Beatles, Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, the Monkees shared scenes, influences, and sometimes the same London bars. This is documented history, everybody. Different sounds emerged, but the lineage was shared. Music became a universal language. Think about Otis Redding recording sitting on a dock in the bay in December 1967. It was quieter, reflective, and sparse. Days later, he died in a plane crash. The song was released posthumously and resonated deeply because it expressed stillness and waiting. The brain recognizes emotional honesty before perfection. And that's why I listen to the music I listen to. Hip hop emerged from environments of chronic stress, high cortisol, environmental threat, and systematic pressure shaped nervous systems. Rap emphasized fast tempo, dominance, and lyrical control. Neurologically, this matches heightened arousal. It validates rather than calms, is pretty much what I thought. There is no peer-reviewed evidence that music executives deliberately engineered genres to create violence or criminal behavior, even though it's being talked about now like it was. That's false. That claim is not supported. But however, sociological research does show aggressive themes were disproportionately promoted, while softer introspective content was often marginalized by market incentives because that music was selling more. Repetition strengthens neural pathways. This is why affirmations work and why destructive messaging can normalize threat based identity, especially in developing brains. Music does not cause chaos, reinforces states. That's it. I think about seeing videos of young moms listening to death metal and showing their baby in the back seat going all crazy, and I'm just like, wow. Extreme genres like heavy metal and death metal have been studied extensively. Research does not show they cause violence, but it does show that high intensity, dissonant sound increases psychological arousal, elevated heart rate, cortisol, and sympathetic nervous system activation occurs. For dysregulated individuals, this amplification can contribute to impulsivity or emotional flooding. For others, it functions as controlled release because they're responsible with it and they don't listen to it all the time, I'm certain. And maybe I'm wrong. Context does matter though. Sound is force multiplier. By contrast, calmer harmonic structures show consistent regulatory effects. So jazz music, especially styles emphasizing swing rhythm and harmonic resolutions, has been associated with reduced stress, improved mood, and increased cognitive flexibility. As a kid, before bed every night, I would put on classical music and that's what I would go to sleep to. I didn't know what I was doing. I just know it put me to sleep. But it wired me to be a different type of human being. And it kind of gave me protection while I was sleeping. And studies show that jazz engages the prefrontal cortex while maintaining emotional balance. Its unpredictability is playful, not chaotic. Its harmonies resolve. Music therapy research shows jazz and similar structures can lower anxiety, improve heart rate, variability, and promote well being. And I know it's true because that's what I listen to a lot of times, especially if I'm cooking. Jazz invites the nervous system into balance rather than overwhelm it. Across cultures, the same principles appear. Native drumming grounds through steady rhythm. Tibetan singing bowls sustain focus through resonance. Indian ragas align with circadian rhythms. Gregorian chants regulate breath through slow phasing. Difficult cultures, same nervous system. So, thank you guys for listening to the You Only podcast. And this is a great episode. And hopefully you're enjoying this about music therapy. It's really helped me a lot, and I had to share it today. So, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, music actually softened across genres. Tempo slowed, variability entertained lyrics, genres blended. This was not weakness, it was recovery. Trauma accumulates, everybody, is what I'm saying. Nervous systems eventually seek repair. Music followed biology. If music has ever made you feel enough to cry, calm enough to breathe, or strong enough to keep going, this was not coincidence. Your brain recognized a pattern that said you were safe enough to feel again. Hope is not a wish. Hope is learned. And music has always been one of the ways humans teach the brain that it is safe to continue. To understand how deeply music reflects intelligence and emotional regulation, we need to talk about two figures who are often misunderstood, and that's Jimi Hendrix and Joe Pesci. Jimi Hendrix is frequently remembered as chaos, loud, wild, explosive. That image is incomplete. Hendrix was a highly disciplined musician with deep technical knowledge. He studied blues structures, jazz phasing, and rhythm and blues traditions extensively. Musicians who worked with him consistently described his obsessive practice habits as precise control over timing, tone, and dynamics. Neuroscientifically, Hendrix playing shows advanced auditory prediction and motor coordination. Studies on expert musicians show their brains demonstrate enhanced excuse me, cognic- connectivity between the auditory cortex, motor cortex, and prefrontal planning regions. Hendrix did not simply react to sound, he anticipated it. His improvisation was not random, it was structured novelty. That matters because novelty within structure is one of the most strongest drivers of dopamine release and neural growth. Hendrix music stretched the brain without overwhelming it for many listeners. It was intensity guided by mastery. This is an important distinction. Chaos without structure destabilizes. Complexity with structure builds capacity. Hendrix also blended genres seamlessly: blues, rock, jazz, soul. This kind of cross genre integration associated with cognitive flexibility, a trait linked to resilience and creative problem solving. Hendrix music, it challenged listeners, but it also expanded them. Now, Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci is widely known for playing volatile, aggressive characters, right? Loud voices, sudden violence, emotional unpredictability. What many people do not know is that Joe Pesci was a trained blues guitarist and vocalist long before his acting career took off. He released jazz albums and performed regularly. Jazz requires timing, restraint, listening, and emotional attunement. Jazz musicians must regulate impulse. They must leave space. They must respond rather than dominate. This contrast is important. Pesci's on screen volatility was performance, not personality. Off screen, his musical background reflects a nervous system capable of subtlety, patience, and control. This is a powerful reminder that artistic expression does not always mirror internal stability. Sometimes it is the container that makes stability possible. Research in psychology supports this. Creative outlets allow individuals to externalize emotional safety. Acting and music provide structured environments for expressing intensity without real world harm. In both Hendrix and Pesci, we see the same principle. High intensity does not equal disorder, uncontained intensity does. When sound, rhythm, and expression are placed inside structure, they become tools for integration rather than destruction. This is why music matters so much. It does not express who we are, it trains who we become. I wanted to include their stories because they passed through the same musical bloodstream at the same time, but they never played together. Stories pass around on the internet that they did, but they never did. Thank you guys for listening to the You Only podcast. Again, thank you for all my fan members, each and every one of you. Thank you for all the recovery groups that are listening. Thank you for all of my fans all over the world. You know, I have a lot of listeners in India I'm grateful for. I have a lot of listeners in Florida. Thank you so much, Miami. I do appreciate you. And thank you to people in South Africa. I have no idea why my emotional appeal is there, but it is. And I'm grateful for everybody listening and sharing me and reflecting on the things that I'm talking about because I think it is something that'll help somebody grow and develop better, like it did me. And I've gotten far, and I appreciate everything I've learned. So why not help somebody else wake up another day with a beautiful smile and be thankful for everything they have and grateful? Remember, get journaling. Journaling's important. And thank you again, everybody. Till next time.